about Joc Pederson. Joc Pederson. Where's he going? Let's talk.
So Joc is an interesting one, right? Because he's somebody that you look at what he has done year over year. There's a lot on can he hit the lefties? There's a lot of just how consistent is he going to be? He's shown flashes of being that dude with 36 pumps in 2019. Then we saw him really inconsistent and hit 190 in that shortened 2020 season. Then all of a sudden he has a conversation with Barry Bonds and things really click. And it's really hard to deny what he did last year. By far his best offensive season of his career, 274, 353, 521 slash line, a 144 WRC plus, 23 home runs. This guy's going to be a popular target, man. He's going to be a very, very popular target. I couldn't believe how much he put it together this year, and he looks like a much more complete hitter than he ever really was before.
Do you think Joc Pederson will sign a similar contract to an Andrew Benintendi? He's 2 years older, but if we're looking at offensive numbers, he rakes. And it's not like his defense is so bad that you think to yourself, well, we can't play him in left. It's not that bad at all. I mean, I think it's better than Kyle Schwarber. I think it's better than Nick Castellanos. And if we're looking at offensive numbers, they were just as good as guys like that. Maybe not quite to the level of Schwarber's power, maybe not quite to the level of Castellanos' bat to ball, but it was in that same kind of ballpark. Like, he could be one of the free agents that we see that gets more money than a lot of people think. Like, if we're talking about hard hit rates, quality of contact, when we're looking at a stat like xWOBA, all of those things, they're through the roof. There's in the 90th, 95th percentile of some of these things. So to your point about talking to Barry Bonds, if he's figured something out, I'm more than comfortable giving him a 4-year deal or 5-year deal worth 15 to 20 million per. I don't think that's that outrageous. Do you?
No, not at all. I am very sold on what we saw this past year. Something really clicked for him, approach wise, just overall swing wise, everything. I mean, you look at the production, but the back end stuff, I mean, just the underlying numbers really seem to back that up too. You look at what he's been able to do zone contact wise, highest zone contact of his career, lowest chase rates of his career overall. He's hitting the ball as hard as ever. He even, I mean, for the most part, they sheltered him from lefties, but when he did have to face lefties, then he only had like 50 plate appearances, but he did have that like a 750 OPS against lefties. That's one thing I am curious is, are you still going to shelter him if you're giving a player that kind of deal? But at the end of the day, we've seen guys that get sheltered from lefties get those kinds of deals. So I think he's going to get a 4-year deal. He hasn't gotten paid yet, really. The most he's made in a single season is $6 million. So this is an opportunity for him to get his bag, and he earned it. He absolutely earned it, and I bet he's going to hold out until he gets that multi-year offer, and I think he's going to get it from a few different teams.
I agree, and a couple of teams that we haven't talked about yet that I want to include for Joc Pederson, and it's because these teams need outfielders, but I don't think the reason that we mentioned them yet is because these teams that we're about to mention need power in the outfield. And one of those teams starts with the Cleveland Guardians. They're not my favorite, but I really want to mention them because now they have Stephen Kwan in the outfield. They have Oscar Gonzalez in the outfield, and they have Miles Straw in the outfield. Number one, Miles Straw can't hit. If they want him to play center field, okay, but it is a hole in the lineup at that point. I don't know how much they like Oscar Gonzalez. I know that they like him, and I know that he is a solid player, but is he in their long-term plans? I don't know. He might be, but they also could use Joc Pederson at DH a ton too. You have Josh Naylor at first baseman. Maybe move him. I wonder if Joc Pederson could play a little bit of first base too. Joc Pederson just adds a ton of thump in that lineup for the Cleveland Guardians, and the Guardians are not my favorite to sign him, but I like that fit. You know what I'm saying?
I don't hate it because I also think he's going to see some time at DH. And he played 14 games at DH last year. I think he's going to get more action there. Like you said, he can get by in the outfield, but ultimately you're probably going to DH him a decent amount of the time as well. And if you're sheltering him from lefties, those are going to be games where Oscar Gonzalez undoubtedly gets the start, and then you can slide around the outfield, make adjustments here and there and get Oscar Gonzalez consistent at bats while, still being able to go to somebody like a Joc Pederson. Yes, they have George Valera coming up. Yes, they have some other outfield prospects, and that's the question. They also have Will Brennan. They also have Benson as well, who's got big time power from the left side. So it's more of a question of how much do they believe in those prospects, and if they really don't know if they're going to be those like Joc Pederson level of producers, then maybe we could see it. I know that I do think they're going to sneakily spend. I don't know if it's on Joc. I do think they're going to make some quiet additions as they secured a little bit more investment this year, as they locked up a couple of their guys that are a big part of their success for affordable, pre-arb deals. So that's not a bad option. I ultimately think he sticks with the Giants because the Giants, we know that they do not take losing well. This is a franchise that was a dynasty, in the early 2010s, a franchise that has just continuously put up some of the best attendance numbers, just is really run well and is always competitive. And if they're not, they get back quickly. We're going to talk about Aaron Judge and how they've been tied to him and how they have interest in him. And they always seem to have the interest in making the big splash, don't always pull the trigger. That said, I don't think you can let Joc Pederson walk, because if you're going to make a big splash, this team wasn't good this year at all. There was some things that worked against them, and I think they can naturally be better. But losing Joc would be a huge blow to this team as they're trying to add. I think they try to find a way to keep Joc, and for around the same price as Benintendi, I think it's a no-brainer for the Giants to do it.
I agree. Another team that I really want to mention for Joc Pederson is because he's been there. If we're talking about been there with the Giants, he's been there with the Braves. And the Braves, he had a lot of success there in Atlanta, and I could see them trying to have a reunion there because Eddie Rosario, like you said, is not that guy. And when I look at the Braves lineup, a lot of righties, right? William Contreras, Matt Olson is that lefty, Ozzie Albies is that switch. But if they re-sign Dansby, that's a righty. Austin Riley, a righty. Ronald Acuna Jr., a righty. So then they have Michael Harris, and then you add a guy like Joc Pederson, take Marcelo Zuna's fucking dumbass out of the lineup. I like the Joc Pederson fit there in Atlanta. Not only, like I said, has he been there, but he adds that lefty power bat that I think the Braves could use as they bolster their offense in the offseason.
I love it. That's probably my other favorite fit. If it's not the Giants, that's my favorite fit, especially because, he was such a fan favorite there in that World Series run. Fans will love that. I'm sure he has fond memories of Atlanta. I think it's going to be between Atlanta or returning to San Francisco personally. Of course, San Francisco's where things clicked for him on another level, and he had this career year. And then you look at Atlanta, this is where he helped a run and win the World Series. It seems like two really good spots for him to sign his first long-term deal.
And before we give our final predictions, another team that I want to mention, kind of similar to the Guardians, but not one of my favorite destinations, but a team that I feel like is a good fit and could use him, is the Tampa Bay Rays. Because if we're looking at a team that needs power, that's the Tampa Bay Rays. I know Harold Ramirez had a great year over there at first base, DH, G-Man Choi, those kind of guys, but I don't know if they're in the Rays' long-term plans. And I know that the Rays have some talented outfield prospects coming up, like a Josh Lowe and guys like that, but the Rays need power, man. And Joc Pederson has been to the World Series, it seems like almost every single year, provides that leadership, championship mentality that I think the Rays could really use. And the Rays are pretty analytically driven, of course. And I think they're going to see a lot of Joc's numbers and think to themselves, we could steal a bat that we view as one of the premier power bats by the numbers. Now, is he? I don't know. But they might view him as that, and they could be in the mix. Because, the Rays are not normally known for spending, but they were in the Freddie Freeman
that's what I'm saying.
Sweepstakes. Like I think they're ready to compete, and they see an AL East where they need to spend. We know that John Henry just sold Liverpool to put more money, I guess, we're hoping, into the Red Sox. The Blue Jays are always going to be there and competitive. Of course, the Yankees and now the Orioles are becoming just this young and exciting team that could be a juggernaut in a few years. I think the Rays, to make some of these moves, makes sense. Again, not going to be my prediction, but I just think it makes a lot of sense.
They need some established offense. I love the prospects that they're going to bring up this year. I like a lot of the guys that they're going to potentially give looks at. Aranda, just to name one of them, Curtis Mead, another, two guys that I think will be a big part of what they're doing. Those are infielders, or you're really stretching them to try to put them in the outfield.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
They don't really have that many established outfield guys. And most of them are, like Margot is more of that glove first center fielder. Arozarena is pretty much their only guy in that regard. And they could use the left-handed pop.
Jose Siri.
Yeah. And it's another glove first center fielder.
If he hits, though.
Get another bat, a guy that you can, oscillate between outfield, DH. I don't hate that at all. And they got to keep up with the rest of that AL East. My final prediction, though, is going to be the San Francisco Giants. And I think they go 4 years, $65 million for Joc Pederson.
I was just thinking, I was like, my final prediction, I think, is going to be 4 years, $65 million over to the San Francisco Giants. I just don't think they're going to let him go. And I know the Giants are in on Aaron Judge, meaning they are very focused on getting a big power bat outfielder. And I think we'll talk about Aaron Judge later, but I think the next best option really for them, because, they could go for center fielder like Brandon Nimmo, but I think they're going for some pop. That's what they need in their lineup. At least they still have Mikey Shremsky in center field. And especially at DH right now, like their DH on Fangraphs Russell Resource is Tommy LaStella. Like, I don't know if that's going to be your DH. Joc Pederson just makes sense there. He had this great offensive season. They have money to spend. Joc Pederson to the Giants feels perfect.
Yep. Keep him. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That was one of your bright spots this season. And I think that they're going to keep rolling with that.